All right, Nikolai, we are ready to enter the Matrix once again.
A second
Um,
time.
yeah, round two. Ding. So I want to go personal now for a minute because I think this will be useful for the audience. So let's take it back 24 hours ago. I'm there calling you on the phone, literally like, what the fuck is happening, Nikolai? And you shone a light on sort of the process that I've been going through, and I think probably a lot of people are going through, where it's like we get in this not wanting to take responsibility for things because we feel in some ways we are not responsible for these outcomes that are happening to us. And I know I'll take the L on this. Like, I have this way sometimes of blaming the universe or society or something so that I am not at fault or I'm not guilty or something with a flavor of that. So, what is man's role as creator or as creative authority? Like, what in terms of the Matrix is the Matrix against us? Is it doing stuff to kind of mess with us? And how should we be interacting properly with Matrix if in fact we are creating, as now I am clear to understand, we are creating absolutely everything in our experience?
Wow, awesome question, and I think there are few major parts. First of all, we'll touch on the matrix again. Then I think a very important part is so-called responsibility and sovereignty, and us being the creator. So coming back to the definition of the matrix, it is just an algorithm of interactions between everything and anything in universe and in a specific sector of universe. So this planet has a unique version of the matrix where it is all about teaching us specific experiences. Meaning is that from the previous episode, I talked about the spirit and the soul and this body, the avatar and the mind. So the soul loaded into this body to harmonize specific parts of itself, and the soul is just mix of energy. Think of it as energy that has been studied and the energy that was not studied. And if we look at the universe in a fractal way, which it is, this universe has 85% of chaos and 15% of cosmos. What it means is that 15% of the universe is structured, there is light there, and 85% is building material, is what scientists call dark matter. Because everything is fractal, that's in this universe, on average, beings have 85% of dark matter, building material, or chaos, and 15% of cosmos, which is structured. So the reason that is important in this sector of universe, so we're talking about the whole universe itself. In this sector of universe, the percentage of the cosmos will be higher, so the chaos will be lower. But what it means when the soul loads in here, what happens is that it loads where part of it is structured and part of it is unstructured, meaning part of it is conscious and part of it is unconscious. And so basically what it means, the conscious part, the soul knows how to use or interact with that type of energy. Let's say we can pick energy of money. There's just a specific type of energy. It's a material or dense energy that we use to exchange different things in this world. And the soul couldn't load here and already know how to interact with that type of energy. And that means that energy is structured. But then there is bunch of the soul that is unstructured. So it means it wants to learn how to harmoniously interact with a different type of energy. And the job of this matrix is to help that soul in this being, or help this person to learn in the shortest period of time how to interact with a specific type of energy. For example, in my scenario, I had, and sometimes this unstructured energy is also called karma. There's like basically different subdivisions of this unstructured energy. So for example, one of them is karma, and karma could have been where I've loaded into the body and I've tried to learn how to interact with the money. And I was like, wow, money, they can buy me things. I'm going to steal them from everyone who I can, or I'm going to manipulate them into giving me money so that I could have more of this energy. Mm-hmm. And that's karma, because that's not a harmonious way to interact with that energy. And a harmonious way is you create for the world, and in exchange, the world gives you that type of energy. So that is an example of that energy not being structured. So the matrix creates events for us to learn how to harmoniously how to harmoniously interact with this type of energy. So in my scenario, I basically did not know how to interact with children. In the beginning of this life, I was like, if somebody gave me a child to look after or hold, I'll be like, take this being away. I don't even know what to do with this. I can't hold the baby. And the way it expressed in day to day, since I didn't have too many children running around me, any adult who behaved childishly would trigger the fuck out of me. Like I would go into this mega anger mode where I was like, are you an idiot? Are you like, you're 35 and you can't figure out your head from your ass? And I was just lose it. So this is an example of, in my scenario, it's karma. That means I haven't learned how to interact with this energy, and previously I didn't interact with it correctly, and it creates this charge. On an energetical level, it is basically short circuit, and any short circuit in our energetic system is same as a short circuit in a power system. In electricity, it causes explosion. In a human body, that explosion we call anger. It causes burst of anger. So anytime you've experienced anger, that means you found the energy that you still haven't learned how to interact with. So to wrap this up, Matrix is not trying to screw with us. It's just trying to point out to us the things we still haven't learned. And if we go into that experience openly and say, okay, I have things to learn here, please show me, and I'm willing to learn, then those experiences that the Matrix presents will be soft, because the way it works, it's like it turns on very nice, pleasant volume, and it presents you a situation. Let's say, for me, with somebody like coming to my apartment and like making a mess. To me, that's a childish behavior, right? And I'm like, it's not a big loss, right? And I was like, okay, I can just clean it up. And then I'm observing, did I go to anger or not? If I go to anger, and then I also like screamed at that person, and then like started expressing a lot, that means I didn't learn shit. So the next time, I don't know, somebody would hit my car just because they're, putting on makeup or typing on the phone. And I'd be like, are you a child? Like, don't you know how to drive? Like, and every time the Matrix will crank up the volume. What I call is cranking up the volume. And if we're not willing to learn, it will get louder and louder and louder to a point where people get into life-threatening car accidents or any type of accidents, where they start having problems with their health, where they lose all of their finance. And there are just so many different ways that the Matrix can pause you and be like, hey, you're not getting the fucking message. We're going to put things on hold. And the reason Matrix is using those instruments, let's say if somebody loses all their money, it stops
Mm-hmm.
them in the track because money is such an important aspect of the society today. So they're like, fuck, I got to review my life. Something is off. If that does not work, then they're like, well, we'll get you sick. When you're sick, you can't do shit. That's also a pause. So it forces you to ponder. So ultimately, Matrix is just creating situations for us to learn how to interact with the type of energy that we haven't learned how to interact with. Hence, we develop inner harmony. And without that inner harmony, we cannot get into a second part of fully being a creator and having full sovereignty. And I'll pause here. Any follow-ups on this one?
Yeah. So lots to go down. So I personally experienced what you just talked about there. If you recall, when we first started working together, I went through a series of events. First, I get a disc injury in my back. It's like Matrix is like, this porno thing, you should probably give it a rest. But I'm like, no, no. So I get the disc injury. That's fine. And it's troublesome, but I work through the disc injury. That's okay. Then I'm about to go to work. I get super sick. Boom. Matrix just takes me out. I'm want to vomit. I got like 103-degree fever. I can't do shit. Can't work. And still, I'm like, nah, fuck you, Matrix. I'm the creator of my own reality. I'm going to go to work. And then, as you and me both know, then right before I was supposed to go to work, Matrix decides, you know what? You're going to fall off a high chair and you are going to snap your arm, both arms actually, but snap your one arm into 6 pieces, have a metal plate put in. And here we are today, right? And that was the wake up call where it was like, I'm retiring today. Done. That was my, yeah, it was such a going away retirement gift. I like it in the olden days where people gave you like a watch, severance package, something nice.
Yeah, see,
Matrix
that's
was like that.
that's a soft way to go, right? And the funny thing there, while we were chatting right before the call, you shared the story how you fell in what is it called, you were in some industrial facility shooting, right? And you fell in the dark. There was dark. You fell of like 10 feet of
Oh
like onto
yeah.
cement, and you haven't broken a single bone.
Yes.
So uh rationally, you should have broken a bunch of things
Oh
by
my
falling
God.
10 feet in the dark, flat on the cement. And here you fell off of a meter and what is it, meter and a
Yeah.
half?
Oh yeah.
Like, what is it, like 5 feet chair or less?
Not even. I think it was probably 4 feet,
Yeah,
3 to 4 feet.
chair, and you
Yeah.
break both hands. And
Yeah.
this is, and the reason I'm bringing this up, like right before this call, we were chatting about the situation, right? It's like there are times when you know how to interact with specific energy, so you have harmony, and something that should damage you or inflict damage onto you, somehow magically you walk away without a single scratch. Like,
And now it's so funny because I totally forgot about that. I mean, that was more than 10. I think that was more like 15 feet.
here you
I
go.
I I
Not
swan
a single
dived in the
scratch,
dark.
right?
No, it's just a little bruising on the knee. That was it. Somehow I pancaked. Yeah, I pancaked onto the wooden whatever, crushed it. Um, yeah. The other thing, I couldn't imagine that somehow I didn't break my teeth. Like you, you, you couldn't have fallen better. And remember, I fell between. So my leg went through a lamp because I actually, for just to paint the picture for the individuals listening, because they're probably like, "What the fuck's he talking about?" I was shooting in London, and we were shooting at this abandoned prison, and we walked up the hill. It's pitch black, and of course, there were guides that were taking us up there. We shoot the dialogue scene. I'm walking back, and I remember walking up sort of staircase on the hill to get to where we were at. So I'm walking back and I see, you know how you can kind of see shades in darkness because it's pitch black, but I can see shades, and there's this shade that's really dark, and I'm like, that's the path. It had this sort of diagonal look to it, like this is the path. No, what this was the edge of a cliff falling off. So imagine me, I'm just walking, and at the very top of this cliff overhang was a lamp. So I walk off, leg goes through the glass of the lamp. Somehow I keep falling after that. And it was the most surreal experience ever, because I remember the free fall felt like it went forever. And I can't see anything. I don't know where I'm at. I am just in the clouds until finally I hit. So because I couldn't see anything, well, again, I was probably as limp as a rag doll because I had no idea when I was going to hit. But also, how could you hit so perfectly to fall for? And the next day, nobody could believe, because they saw where I fell from. I have a picture. I'll show you. I don't know if I showed you the picture. I'll show you the picture someday.
Yeah.
Just because they had a guy stand there, and the guy was 6 feet tall. So you'll see him. You'll see where I fell from, and you'll be like, how the hell did you not break, shatter, everything? And then I fell off the little chair, both arms broken. You know, the right arm was just a small fracture, but the left was 6 pieces, and the elbow hanging off, and I got screws in there. I got a plate, and it's exactly what you said, right? It's like that dial being just cranked up to maximum, like, yeah, you know, you don't want to listen. Okay, here we go. Let's try something to get your attention.
And here is the most important thing. It's like Matrix is just trying to help us evolve and become more godlike, more absolute-like, meaning achieve harmony. And the harmony is just knowing how to interact with any types of energy. Then that allows us to have a stable internal pillar where it's almost impossible to unbalance us, no matter of situation that we end up in. And the situations are just different types of energy. In my situation, it could be somebody childish. In somebody else's situation, somebody derogatory. In somebody else's situation, I don't know, some like not pleasant. But at the end of the day, this universe encapsulates everything. It has everything, and there is purpose for everything. And the absolute is creator or the source of everything, because absolute is really a container within, or the God or the universe is just a container within which everything exists. That means there is a purpose and reason for everything to exist. So coming back to this matrix version 5, we're transitioning to version 6, and that's a separate conversation, is an evolutionary school. It is a school that was designed to help a young soul to advance to the level of absolute or inner harmony, state of inner harmony, in a very short span of time. So as soon as we just accept that everything and anything in this surrounding is here to teach us. Every person we interact with, they're our teacher. I don't know, every chair we sit down on that either supports us or breaks, a leg breaks and we fall, is there to teach us. So everything is teaching us. That's why it's a little bit annoying, because anywhere we go, we're being taught something. And if we can just accept that, number one, then the life becomes easier. And the second one, so that the matrix doesn't crank up the volume, we call it a way of warrior. And way of warrior, we accept the circumstances that are presented to us. It doesn't mean we accept the contents of circumstances. Let's say someone robbed someone, And it doesn't mean we accept the robbery because it's in a harmonious way of interacting. But if we're like start blaming someone or is like, fuck this, the world is shit, blah, 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 that's not accepting circumstance. We're like, okay, there is this circumstance in my life. I accept it. What is it trying to show it to me? And that brings me to what a lot of people already talk about. Matrix is just a mirror. And it's mirroring the inharmonious parts in us, as well as it's mirroring the harmonious parts in us. If we're happy, feel abundant, if we in a state of gratitude, if we share our creativity, we share our happiness, this is exactly what surrounds us. It's like, if that's the only energy that exists in us, that means we've learned how to be harmonious in any situation, then in any situation, we will experience harmony. Meaning, if we're dropped into an armed conflict or a war, and we're fully harmonious inside, Matrix will create unexplainable events where we'll just walk through it and not even get a scratch. And people will bring out water and like bread and etc.
It's so funny that you just mentioned that. A couple of things I want to unpack there, but just because you just mentioned that, literally 3 hours ago, I'm just, I'm scrolling, I'm on X, and I'm just watching some different videos, and they were showing this lady and her children, Russian lady and her children, and she walked a road from the Ukraine side to the Russian side, 58 kilometers. And you could see, if I can find it, I'll send it to you. But even the military guys are like, is this woman crazy? And she just walked with her kids. She's like, I'm walking. And without a scratch, made it to the other side. And everybody's like, how is that possible that you didn't get bombed? You didn't, like, nothing, like straight through the front line on the road, like, I'm going to the other side. We're going. Just totally harmonious. And literally you can hear these, the subtitles, the army people, because they see her through the different scopes, and they're like, what's going on? Is she crazy? Like, how's she gonna make this? No problem.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
no, and unpack that, and then I've got another question I want to go into.
Yeah, and it's interesting about on the topic of Ukraine. I have like a lot of friends from Ukraine, and the funny thing, when the conflict started, I like randomly like started catching up with some of the people. None of them were in Ukraine, and they were telling me the story. So I was like, oh, I got a call and I got invited to a birthday in Berlin. I flew, and then the war started. And I was like, oh, I was just like doing this, and I was like, I'm not liking the weather. I went to Bali. And like, so what I'm saying is that there is a reason for every experience every human has. And whenever there are big events like a big conflict, a war that is unfolding, the souls and the avatars of those souls were brought together in that location, and it's a event that has been almost like planned for decades. And the avatars that needed to experience that type of energy randomly or not randomly moved there, relocated there, or relocated out of there if they didn't need to have that experience. So once again, Matrix is just a mirror. If we're in harmony, we'll experience harmony in the middle of the most obscene situation. And the parts that are not harmonious yet, the Matrix, or we call them subconscious or unconscious, Matrix mirrors them as well. And it mirrors them by shining a light on them, by creating events on outside so we can notice. Because not many people have instruments or learned how to look inwardly. So that's why there are different instruments like meditation, there is like education about all this, or knowledge that teaches how to start looking inwardly. So the more we look inwardly and start, seeing them ourselves, the softer the events are. So, and then we'll start paying attention to the tiniest events ever, like let's say when I walk and I stumble, like I literally like stumble on some stone or something, I was like, right away I pause and I look inwardly. Is the world trying to communicate something to me? And like in the beginning, in most scenarios, yes. And it's like, and I was like, oh, I stumbled. Like, you're rushing. Slow down. You're rushing everywhere in your life. Slow down, or we will make you stumble even more, even bigger. Where, you know, like you'll run into another car while driving, and that's not. And then you'll really hear the message. And like, let's say, rushing, being impatient is not harmonious. So the matrix is just helping us. The thing is, a majority of population of the world got into a situation, oh, we're being punished, and looking for the guilty on outside. But in reality, it's just a mirror. You cannot stand in front of the mirror and be pointing finger and not and like blaming and not liking what you see. Like, you cannot blame the mirror.
Yeah.
And that's period.
Yeah, and just going into that, because I think a lot of people will kind of struggle with this. Like, what is the, because you talked about harmonious. What's the litmus test for what that is? Like, how do we know harmonious from not? What lets us know that we, yeah, that we're living in a quote unquote harmonious way, or that we're doing something in our harmonious matter versus not, so that we can get the lessons and we can get Matrix on board with us?
Yeah. So the first big indicator of inner harmony, the outer harmony. If you live a life where everything's just aligned, easy, flowing, happy, etc., that means the person is at a very high level of harmony, inner harmony, because the matrix is the mirror, right? With that said, there is in spirituality, there's this tendency of escapism, where people are like, learn to meditate, do yoga, and etc. I'm like, wow, and they experience that first flavors of so-called harmony because they meditate more, they're connecting with themselves. They move to, I don't know, India, Thailand, Bali, South America, and sit under a palm tree and meditate, and then they get stuck in that.
Mm-hmm.
But then they withdrew from the main meditation, which is the whole life. Life is meditation, but most people live life unconsciously, and the idea of starting to meditate is to see the learning in every experience. So we constantly expand and grow, because if we can learn even from like eating pasta and the way we chew it, and with the way we experience flavors, or like, do we rush through it? Do we bite the tongue while eating, and because we're rushing, right? Or we're not paying attention. When we learn how to live consciously, then we realize everything is meditation, and there is a way to be learning in every moment. And then the life becomes amazing and spectacular. And then we get to this place of harmony, inner harmony, much faster. So the easiest, as I mentioned, external harmony. But hiding in Bali under a palm tree is not harmony. Trust me, the matrix will still get to you. There will be a storm, and the palm tree will fall on your head. If you're avoiding interacting, if somebody is avoiding interacting with the world, with the society, there are periods in time where you have to withdraw. And usually it's earlier stages of so-called awakening, or reconnecting with your soul and spirit, reconnecting with your energies that is trying to get harmonized. People end up in this, we call it a buffer zone, where they're protected, where they have this like calm, nice experience where they can learn different practices to learn inwardly. But a lot of people get stuck in that. And for people who get stuck in that, people who get stuck in Bali or other place, or in their own home meditating, and I know quite a few because I was part of a bigger meditation group, they get addicted to this transcendental bliss, and they stop living life, because that's escapism. They basically take their focus and they move it out of their body into high vibration energies, and they live life there. But we load it into this body for a reason. We load it to this body to go through advanced, accelerated evolution, so that we can interact with more energies in a harmonious way. So when they get stuck in this bliss transcendental state, they're not learning shit. And sooner or later, if they're hiding in their house, somebody will come and knock on their house, or there will be events where they're like, it's time, your buffer time is over, it's time to re-engage with life. And if you don't want to re-engage with life, we'll help you. And so that's about the harmony.
Yeah. Well, to touch on the escapism piece, because this is really interesting to kind of tie this together, because if there are certain experiences that, like, Matrix wants us to experience, like, I know how you'll get some people, and this is why I want your feedback on this. There are some people that will just really, I'm just going to call it that, very, very super woo-woo state of mind, where it's just like, if it's meant to happen, it will happen. And so they literally just stop working, because they're just like, I'll just be here. If it is meant to be, it will be. So where does a sense of willpower come into it? Or better yet, I could say, what is the balance between working towards something versus an expectation that Matrix is going to just hand it on a silver platter? Or does Matrix just hand it on a silver platter? And if that's the case, where's my silver platter?
Hey,
Can I just sit on the beach at $1 million?
There is this queue that we manage, so you just got to get your number, and sooner or later, a silver platter is coming. I'm kidding.
Okay.
And that's a great question, because it brings us to where we started in the concept of responsibility and sovereignty. And there is actually a great book written, I think, last name Zinger, Surrender Experiment. I think Michael Zinger, I believe that's his name. And he went full on into so-called, surrender. But the thing is, most people don't realize, when they read the book, when I read the book first time, I misread it and misunderstood it. And I started falling into this trap. I sit under a tree and I meditate and everything will happen. Now, what happens in that meditation, we pause, we reconnect with ourselves, we reconnect with our higher structures, which are soul and spirit. And as a result, we hear better where to move next. What's our next step? And that's what he did. When you read the book, he would meditate a couple hours a day. And then the Matrix would lead him in the most unpredictable directions. He just didn't want to do anything. He would be like, I'm just going to meditate here. And the Matrix was like, and he built a shack in Florida in this beautiful nature, blah, blah, blah. And he would just sit and meditate. And somebody came and was like, hey, can you build me a shack as well? I was like, I'm not a construction person. I don't know how to do shit. I was like, well, we just want you to build the stuff. And first he would resist, and then it was like, well, Matrix is presenting the situation. He would meditate first, he would resist, then there would be a request, and then it was like, well, clearly I should go into this because there is a repetitive request. Then he built a successful construction company, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, he built the first electronic medical record that sold for like over $1 billion. And in that surrender, he didn't surrender and be like, whatever, I'm not going to do anything, things will just come on a silver platter. What he was doing in meditation, he was aligning with the easiest and the most effortless path that Matrix has prepared for him to learn all types of energies to harmonize. So he would just align. So that surrender is necessary when we step into the event or the circumstances, but doesn't mean we accept. If somebody's trying to kill us in the circumstance, we're not allowing that, because that's also breaking the first universal law of life. If we don't value our life, it will be taken away. We protect ourselves. We act. So where I'm going with this is the surrender concept is just to enter the experience, but then in the experience, we are there to develop, to evolve, to learn. And now we start acting in it and figuring out, how do we live through this experience in a harmonious way? So for example, in his scenario, it's like Matrix, like, hey, build a construction company. He's like, I don't want. And he's like, fine. So he went into it and started building, and he realized he's good at creating, building, managing processes because he was activating specific energies that are like probably energies related how to create systems, how to express creativity, and etc. Matrix presented like if he didn't want to step into first easiest circumstances that Matrix presented, the Matrix would just make it much more hardcore. So that's where this nuance and balances, we're always open to step into what Matrix presents. But then in that situation, we have to learn, we have to expand. And there are situations that are simple. Okay, I'm building a company, but as part of building a company, he faced a bunch of challenges. And that's what set him up to develop new skills, which is basically to develop harmony of interacting with different energies, right? Like, for example, working with construction workers, not always the easiest, right? It's like, how do you organize them, right? If it would be me with my previous inharmony of like freaking out at people who act like children, probably I would be losing it every day. I was like, come on, couldn't you think that this could be done much better and can be organized much better, right? So we step into every situation that is presented, and then from there, we learn. If the situation, let's say, often the Matrix will throw us into a situation, let's say, somebody steps into a situation where they're getting abused. Then we're like, I just surrender, I'm getting abused. No, you're in this situation to understand why the fuck you're getting abused so that you stop being abused. That's where that fine line of the, oh, I surrender, the God will serve everything on a silver platter. That's a distortion. It's like, okay, I'm here, I'm getting abused. Why the fuck am I getting abused? Oh, wow, I've abused other people before. And now I'm learning what it feels like on myself. Or it's like, oh, wow, I have energy of a victim in me where I'm like always victimizing myself, where I'm like always saying I'm a victim. Well, you want to be a victim? We're going to send you the abuser. So you guys match. So it gets so shitty. So you finally decide to stop being a victim. And now you harmonize. You get into a state of harmony. So if we're sent an abuser, here's another thing. If we continue building on that abuser, because there's a lot of toxic abusive relationship, people will keep experiencing abusive relationship until they learn all the lessons. So it's like, I can be like, well, fuck this. Let's say if it's a woman, fuck this guy. Is like, he's abuser. I break up. Well, guess what? If you haven't learned shit, the next one will be abuser. And the ultimate guy, if you keep like just escaping that, and not learning the lesson, you'll get to a guy who will be so abusive that you'll have no other option but to figure out what the fuck is going on. And that's where we do surrender to what is presented to us. And then we'll learn from that. And another way to describe from that, when we learn from that, when we achieve more structure or harmony within, like we talked about, let's say there's 30% of us that's structured, 70 unstructured. The more of us get structured or harmonized, the more energy can pass through this body or through this energetic structure, the more happiness we feel. Because coming back to the term in Russian or Slavic, radost, light, dost, sufficient. So the more light travels, the more consistent, stable state of happiness and joy we experience. It's simple. If we strip away all these events and blah, 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 and look purely at a scientific energetic level, that's what happens. There's just more energy traveling through a pipe that's not bent, right? If we have a pipe that is 70% indented, there's only 30% of energy or liquid or whatever is traveling through that can travel. The more it becomes harmonized, the more the pipes opens up, the more we can experience the state of happiness.
Okay, so you mentioned something just a while ago, and I think it would be useful because I don't think we touched on it in the previous episode. And I know there's more than just this, but if you could give the basic ones just so people understand, what are the basic universal laws?
Okay. So there are hundreds, thousands of universal laws. All of them are derived from the main. It's like also like a fractal. It's like kind of like the Russian Matryoshka doll, right?
Yeah.
So the main one from what everything stems from is the universal law of life. Protect life and life's evolution. So there are exceptions to that. If you're being attacked and you're like, oh, I surrender, protect life, and they kill you, you just broke universal law of life because you didn't protect your life. And one thing you protect is your own life. If the species cannot protect your own life, that species should not survive. And then you protect your life. It's like also the saying, help yourself first, then help others. That's why in the airplane, you first put the mask on yourself, and then you're useful to the society because then you can put the mask on everybody else.
Yeah.
Because now you're a functioning member. So from that law, a lot stems out, right? The second one is the law of energy conservation. Whatever you put out, you receive. You put out anger, that anger has to come back somewhere. You'll get the anger back. That's the concept of mirror, the matrix being the mirror, and etc. And here, like people think they can cheat the matrix. For example, oh, I'm gonna donate money, bunch of money. That means I'm gonna get money back, right? And if you, let's say, give some money, which is energy, to a homeless person and takes your $20, and that person goes and shoots some heroin because they bought it for $20, guess what? You're not getting more money back. You're getting some kind of low energy back because you did not help that person evolve. You helped that person degrade. So we're responsible how we spend our energy and what kind of energy we put out. So that's the second one. Trying to remember the other ones. I won't go in the order, and the order is not as important. There is a law of freedom of contract. Everything, this whole universe is based on contracts. So when we agree with somebody, Matrix will execute that contract no matter what. So if somebody thinks they can be sneaky, you cannot hide from Matrix. I thought I can be sneaky even when I had all this knowledge about Matrix. I was like, I know how it works. I know how to navigate. Never, ever, ever I've screwed the Matrix. Matrix came back and put everything in order, and I had a bunch of experiences. And when you think you're clever and you have the knowledge, you can circumvent things. And to be more specific about the law of freedom of contract, is everybody's free to make a contract, so we can agree on something. Let's say we agree on me moving your lawn, and you're gonna pay money for that. And then I move your lawn, and you're like, no, fuck that guy. I don't like how he did it. And you started finding reasons not to pay me. You don't pay me. Matrix will still pay me. That whatever $20 will come back from somewhere else, and Matrix will take from you $20 somewhere else. So, and I've seen this in my life where I was transitioning out of my last company, and there was an agreement of what was supposed to be paid out to me, and just to get the message across to me by the board decided to withhold final payment. And I was a little bit annoyed and frustrated, but then I was like, by then I already sensed, I had that intuition that that's how the world works. I was like, it is what it is. They're doing their thing. I will not, the world, the universe will return this to me. Literally 2 months later, I'm selling my place, and there is a price that I wanted to get. And I get the price exactly the same amount higher that was withheld from me from the price I wanted to get. And I was just sitting there and laughing. I'm like, okay, doesn't matter. It is what it is. So that's that. So the contract matrix, the way matrix works, matrix does not have feelings, emotions. It's just an operating system. It will execute every contract. And here it's very important. When you promise something to someone, you create contract. Word is contract. You don't need to sign anything. It's like, and that's why the more contracts you create, the more energy is getting pulled out of you. So it's very important to watch yourself creating contracts. There are people who are like, promise everything to everyone. Oh yeah, I'll go with you to the park on Saturday. And then you're like, fuck, I really don't want to go to the park. I just want to chill. It was like a long week. And now you have to call. Yeah, you can break the contract. That's fine. But as long as you do it consciously. If you're like start finding excuses or you start like not picking up the phone, the energy will be taken from you. So, but instead you can be like, hey, listen, I realize I had a long week. Can we just cancel the whole plan with the park? Once I've like reestablished and I rested, I'll call you and we'll figure out another time. So that's an adjustment to the contract. So promises are contracts. Another one is a very important one is free will, what's so-called. Everybody talks about is there free will or no free will, and that's the fourth one. And it's funny how I went, and then I'll get to the third one. Free will exists, and we call it the universal law of freedom of creative will. And there is an important reason why we add creative will. There is free will. However, that free will stops where other universal laws kick in. If you decide to hurt another life, you're breaking universal law number one, right? So there's no free will there. Then like, if you, for some reason, doing something, you want to put out anger and that's your free will, guess what? Universal law 2 of conservation of energy will bring the anger back. So do as much free will as you want. And that brings us to the third universal law, the universal law of creator. So everyone is a creator, but also we are part of a bigger creator, meaning we're in this container that we call universe, absolute God, or whatever. And the higher the consciousness, the primary consciousness, or the point of singularity, or so-called absolute, that point where that has the state of harmony, has given us a project of harmonizing or structuring part of the universe in a current sector of the universe and assigned to us a purpose. We can also call it a universal law of purpose. Everybody has a unique purpose. So to make this planet harmonious, which is basically to make, in other words, this part of universe or this sector of universe harmonious, everybody has to do their unique part. So, for example, Nikolai, one of Nikolai's jobs is to share this knowledge, to synthesize and translate and make this knowledge understandable. But if Nikolai chooses to trade stocks, I'm not carrying out my part. So I'm like, I have free will. And that's where everybody gets caught up. I have free will. I'm going to be a stock trader. And some people, by the way, have to be stock traders. If they're not doing their part, then also this world does not get harmonized. So, and that's where that free will stops when we break other universal laws. If an avatar, a person, is not willing to align with their purpose, then they will get corrections, which we discussed about. The Matrix will throw in some health problems, broken arms, money taken away, the list goes on. And so at the end of the day, we load it here to build a specific startup, which is us, structuring the space in a specific way. Somebody has to be an amazing musician, and through music, people connect with their inner world or experience the state of harmony, because beautifully written music can get you close to that. If they're not doing their part, they have to get corrected. And no matter how much free will they think they have, the life will just start going off rails. So those are some of the examples of the universal laws and laws.
Yeah. So because I'm sure many people have had this experience. And so it was interesting to have you touch on it right there, because we've all had the experience where somebody gets away with something. And then, of course, we're like, oh, what's going on in terms of God, the universe? Like, why are those people, for example, there might be murderers, they might be something. why are they not punished where they get off so-called scot-free?
Mhm.
And it sounds to me, and I'm curious your take on it, that Matrix will find a way to punish them even if we are not aware of what that punishment may be or might look like.
That is exactly one of the answers, right? Like, for example, when you in this imaginary story, when you didn't pay me $20 for the lawn, by then we're probably not talking, and then I might be like frustrated and be like, oh, I got that guy. You think you got that guy, but then the Matrix took $20 elsewhere, right? So in a lot of situations, people don't realize the punishment they get, and there is a lot of nuance in some situation. Um, let's say the person they killed, that was a correction because that person has done it to others, and had that energy had to be returned, right? And that could be an event, right? There is also this so-called uh, part of the matrix that has to introduce corrections, and some of these corrections are introduced through those people, so they become like they service the matrix. Do you see what I mean? It's like, let's say somebody's like created an interesting crypto scheme and like basically stealing money through crypto pyramids or meme coins or whatever they're called from people. And people show up in their life. We call them systematic darks that offer them even a more interesting scheme, right? And they steal their money. And the reason they get away, it's because it's their job in the matrix to manage misbehaving people. And they don't get punished for that because they loaded in to learn that experience. So for them, it's fine. They can be taking money from like others and not be punished, but because they're carrying out their function, they're like, what do you call? They're maintaining a hygiene of the place. Because if there's nobody to maintain, like hyenas, we can say hyenas, fuck, they're bad. But if nobody is eating away dead bodies in a forest, then there could be like a major outbreak of all types of diseases where it's going to impact animals. So that's why everything that exists on this planet and the universe, there is a reason for it. And the key is to look and read in between the lines and to understand that full context first before judging someone or assuming, oh, they get a what is it called, the monopoly, the get out of jail card, right? And then they can do all those things. So there are a lot of different reasons and nuance of why specific people can do things, like let's say taking money, stealing money from someone, and they get nothing for that, because in most situations they're just stealing from other people who are stealing. So that creates balance. That rebalances the matrix.
Gotcha. So at the end of the day, Matrix is just looking to sort of find balance with itself and with others, or how would you say
Yin
that?
yang. There's light and there's so-called dark, right? And it has to be in balance. It cannot exist without the balance. So if there's no dark, there's no light. If there's no light, there's no dark, because this one has to be taught how to be harmonious or light by balancing through the dark of what not to be, what is inharmonious, right? If there's no light, then this goes out of balance, and this has nothing to feed on, to take energy from. So it's really about the balance. And some people, where things get off track, when people use the freedom of creative will, and the reason it's creative will, because when we load it here, we basically have purpose, and there are major milestones to get to that purpose. So the freedom of creative will, we can go in between those milestones whichever way we want. That's the freedom of creative will. You know, like I could share the information by, doing this podcast, or I can stand on a corner of Times Square and just scream into a microphone, or I can go teach in a school, or there's a lot of way for me to carry out my purpose. That's where we have freedom. Where things get off track, where we watch the society movies or whatever, we watch movies about these, let's say, con artists, and we're like, yeah, they get easy money. Or we watch a documentary about crypto people, And we're like, yeah, they get easy money. I'm going to be that. If that's not our purpose, we're going to get corrected. If that's person's purpose, that's great. They're going to get aligned. The way to describe it, in our body, we have cells that are skin cells, that we have heart cells, eye cells, teeth cells, bone cells. And that's the purpose. As soon as a cell decides it doesn't want to be let's say, a stomach cell, that's what forms cancer. In a fractal way, that person becomes cancer in the society because they're not carrying out their part. So that's why for some people, there's supposed to be like, there's an immune system. Immune system kills other things, right? So immune system cleans up this. So it's like, it might be like, wow, it kills other cells. Now it kills the other cells, so the whole organism survive. And similarly in the society, there is, for example, part of the immune system is police. Another part of the immune system is those dark structures, right? Organized crime. Because where the police cannot get to, they'll get to.
Interesting. Okay. So then even things that we may look at sometimes as negative are actually structures within the matrix, pruning the forest, so to speak, in that sense.
Exactly.
So that we have no wildfires.
And when we don't have this knowledge, then we see the work like through a keyhole. We see only small part, and we start. It's like this whole what is it? Image with the elephant leg. Is it a tree trunk? Is it elephant leg? Is it like a just concrete wall? Right? When we're looking through a keyhole, the reason knowledge is so powerful is because once we start understanding how things work, then we have a much more holistic view of the world and life.
Yeah, that's funny. Because just a class that I did with my NLP professor last week, and he touched on something that he had talked about 15 years ago, but it was interesting just to hear again, and I'd be curious on your take on it. And he got it from there was a comedy bit that Jerry Seinfeld did, but it triggered something in his brain to think about it. And it was this concept of the creative director of the universe, right? Whether we want to call it source or God, but the creative director of the universe. And he said the whole thing with the creative director of the universe is it will not say no to anything. And so that was his interesting perspective on it. It's like, imagine a world where it's like it will never say no. You want famine in eastern sub-Saharan Africa? Yes. You want billionaires living on yachts? Yes. You want oil spill in Antarctic? Yep, that's good. You want and it's a constant yes. It will not say no to anything. And I just wondered on your take on that as we close this out.
Yeah, so yes and no. I will say
Okay.
no here. And yes, because coming back, version 5 of the Matrix of this planet, advanced evolutionary school. To have an advanced evolutionary school, we want to have as many diverse locations as possible, because no matter of the age and experience of the soul, they can learn and develop. You need somebody to experience famine, send them to sub-Saharan Africa, right? So basically, look at this planet as a movie set, or a set of different quests with completely different situations, like cultures. You go from one Italian village to another Italian village, same pasta made completely different. And that's within one culture, right? Mm-hmm. You drive from Switzerland cross-border to Italy, you're like, whoa, what just happened? And it even feels differently. So this diversity allows, that's why it's called advanced evolutionary school. No matter what kind of soul loads here, it can very rapidly upgrade because it will be thrown in exactly in a place where there is an opportunity to learn how to interact with specific type of energy. Like people who don't value life, thrown into, as an example, situations of war. And on this planet, there's always multiple wars happening. Some get more media coverage, some get less media coverage, right? But there's always a conflict where a soul can load in or end up in as, I don't know, as a correspondent, or I don't know, if flying somewhere else and they have to make an emergency stop, and the emergency stop happens there. So that is the yes part. There is also one more thing to yes part. Young souls have always a right to experience something for the first time. What it means is that if the soul, or even like older soul, if they didn't have specific experience, they can live through it in any unique way. Let's say a soul is young and hasn't learned what the universal law of life is. The Matrix will allow them to kill somebody to experience that. And then they'll have to work the karma off. And that's how they harmonize that energy. That's how they learn. So that's why, for example, one example that we share in our course, in our book, in politics, usually they hire people for the publicity to announce different things. Usually those are younger souls, because they can announce anything and everything. Because by announcing, you start creating that reality and manifesting that. And the Matrix will permit them to say whatever and basically start the manifestation, because it's their first time. It's like, hey, we're gonna, I don't know, invade Iraq, and that's the best thing since sliced bread, because blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, okay, but because they're young soul, and then they'll have to unravel. They are earning a bunch of karma. And the Matrix, yeah, we accept that, because that soul needs to learn that, you know? So that's also where it goes, yes. But then where things start going no, when a soul is advanced and learn how to interact with that energy, and the avatar or the body, the mind, decides to go against the universal laws, the correction happens very fast. And that's why some people can get away, some people cannot get away. For some people, it's their purpose. For some people, and that's what, it's a Spider-Man, the more the more power you have, the more responsibility you have. The more the advanced soul is, that means the more experience it has, the more responsibility it has. It cannot go around anymore with AK-47 shooting at people. The correction will happen very fast. You grab AK-47 and you're gonna walk out, and the roof over the exit will just fall and make the necessary adjustments.
Interesting. Yeah, next time I want to go into, because I know we were skating on the surface, and that's something I'd really like to dive deep on later, is this concept of purpose, finding purpose, and how people will understand what is their true purpose versus what maybe they're fighting against, or what society is valuing that might be different from
Yeah,
them.
that would be a great topic to double click. There's one more thing that I wanted to unpack, and I kept unpacking other parts, and that's where we started, the responsibility and sovereignty.
Oh yeah, back where we started.
Yeah, and this will be a great wrap up in the summary.
Yeah.
Just understanding the fact that Matrix is just the mirror of your inner world, what's structured and what's unstructured, or what's harmonious and what's inharmonious. We are creators of everything. And most of people grew up in the society, including myself. Actually, everyone grew up in a version of the world that taught us day and night to blame somebody else and to absolve yourself of responsibility. And we are creators of everything. It's just a subset we create consciously, and there's a subset that we create unconsciously. So if there is a 30% of us structured and 70% unstructured, 30 of life will create consciously, 70% will happen to us. And the tendency is to blame the mirror. And the only way to come back to full power, to full responsibility, to full sovereignty is to register that thought that we're creators of everything. And like I was sharing with you yesterday, example of like, there was a point, it was like this paradigm shift point for me when I was walking and it started raining and was like, well, I don't control the rain. What the fuck? Now I'm wet. And I was like, no, I've created the situation as well. Maybe I didn't create the rain, but I created the situation where I decided to go for a walk specifically at that day, at that point in time and day, and in that location to experience rain. So we are creators of everything. And sadly, a lot of structures, a lot of education, a lot of social values, a lot of upbringing was done in a way to teach people to give away their responsibility and power and blame others. Like, for example, in North America, the big one is like, oh, this company screwed me over, I'm going to sue them.
Yeah.
That's, you've just given away your power. Instead, the question should be, I just got screwed. What is the Matrix trying to teach me? Oh, I screwed other people 10 years ago. Or, oh, it's teaching me how to interact with this type of, let's call it inharmonious people and still keep my balance. Okay, cool. And that's it. The screwing part ends. But if the person doesn't learn the lesson, you do one lawsuit, there will be a bigger one, and a bigger one, and a bigger one. And the Matrix has infinite resources. And there is a lot of people who are learning here. It's a big school. There are, few billion people on this planet, right? That are in school. There are in a lot of sets, everything from billionaire yachts to famine in Africa. So the key thing is to, on daily basis, step at a time, to take responsibility back, that we create everything around us. And as that clicked in for me, I right away started feeling more energized, more sovereign, more powerful. And of course, I had to navigate a bunch of other programs where I give but at least I became aware and I started noticing where I give away my power, where I give away my energy, and that happens anytime we give away responsibility. So the whole idea is we are sovereign beings creating everything around. And since everything in the universe is fractal, same as Absolute created the universe, we are a fractal of the universe, of the Absolute or God, or we're also God's hands, as they also sometimes say. If not our hands, who else's hands the God would create these things with, right? So because we're connected through Wi-Fi to the spirit or Absolute or God or primary consciousness or whatever the word is, we are also creator. The difference is that primary consciousness creates at the scale of the whole universe. We, as a fractal of that, first create in our own universe, which we call our individual or internal matrix. When we demonstrated to Absolute primary consciousness that we can harmonize and structure our individual matrix, meaning our life is harmonized, we're happy, everything is amazing, then the spirit that is the venture capital investor of energy goes, wow, this person is amazing. They just organized their life. Here's more energy for them. Let's start scaling them. And then people can start impacting other people or start organizing bigger parts of the matrix. So it all comes back to really connecting with the fact that we create everything.
Yeah, and that was like when I called you yesterday, it's like at first, I mean, you could even hear it in my voice, like I'm like, no, I'm fighting, like fuck, and then it's like but it starts to sell us like you get this internal sense of fuck, Nikolai's right, god damn it, and then you just like, because it does, and as a North American, right? It's so ingrained in the culture to say it's their fault, it's this person's fault, like everybody's conspiring against me, like it's really baked into that culture. So I'm glad you're bringing awareness, especially to myself, where I can recognize, no, I'm creating this. I'm not sure why. And that's something, as we go through these episodes, I'd like to even unpack further. It's like, what lets us even know what is the lesson? Because I think for some people, they can even get on board with, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
What the hell is the lesson? Because again, if we can't learn the lesson, we're doomed to repeat the scenario over and over and over. And I know even myself, sometimes it's like, Jesus, I've gone through so many scenarios and it's the same flavor of scenario. And I'm still looking like, what is this trying to teach me at the end of the day? So,
Yeah. What's interesting when you talk about the lessons. So evolution goes as a spiral, let's say, going up. When we don't learn the lesson, we stay at one level going in a circle. So we want to be on the spiral going up. That means we're learning the lessons. And another thing is, for example, this whole North American thing, sue everyone. Like people sue the city for slipping on ice. If, as a species, you cannot navigate your environment and walk on ice, maybe you should not exist as a species. Do you see what I mean?
yeah. Well, it's funny. There was just something in some news channel about somebody got I think it was $50 million from Starbucks because again, another like I burnt myself with coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know coffee's hot?
Here you go. And it's like they got the 15 million, they'll have their experience further on. They think they want.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's where full sovereignty, and that's where everything is moving. So to transition to the next version of Matrix, which is a creative lab. So here, fifth version of Matrix on the planet is all about teaching us how to be in harmony. Because the next version is to be creative lab, meaning it will all be about creativity and expressing and what is possible to create. But if we didn't, in a first version, gain the inner harmony, when we transition, well, first of all, the Matrix, the way everything's set up here, you won't be able to enter the next version. But if you would, people would create what is created now, weapons to kill each other, Because if there isn't harmony, if I don't like someone, if I don't know how to interact with someone, okay, let's figure out how do I get rid of the things and people I don't like. So now, rather than focusing what else is possible to create, it's going to be, okay, what else is possible to create so I can remove things from the environment that are taking me out of my balance or harmony. So that is why it's so important to achieve this inner harmony. That inner harmony allows us to stay in this state, balanced state, and stay responsible and basically stay being creator. And once we truly connect with the energy creator, now we can enter the next version to be the creator. Mm-hmm. But if we're saying, no, I didn't create this ice, fuck the weather, fuck Canadian weather, and fuck the city that did not put the salt on, you just basically said, I'm not the creator. Oh, you're not the creator? Stay in the school. We're not gonna allow you graduate so you can start creating things because you're saying you're not a creator. Okay, that's fine. That's your choice. Free will. Nobody canceled free will.
So in other words, be a creator.
Exactly. And that's where everything is heading.
All right. Well, once again, tons of knowledge. Next time, like I said, I really want to dive into this concept of purpose and unpack it and see where else we go in terms of being our own creators. Because I know I got slapped with a lesson yesterday, and there's going to be a lot more slapping coming. So,
well, awesome questions, and looking forward to the next one.
All right. Until next time.